had a lovely weekend. So here's another trade recap. I know we've been absolutely pumping them out at the moment. I can imagine there's a hell of a lot for you to get through. But, you know, there's huge value in every single recap that's posted by any member of the team. You know, we all trade it the same, but we all give our slight insight into what we're looking at, why we're looking at it. And, you know, it just gives you that foundation of knowledge to keep kind of ingraining into your mind, seeing that it is the same thing over and over again. And obviously when we talk about, you know, it's literally the same thing all the time, we're not saying it for a joke, it's because it is. And, you know, for those of you that aren't doing end of day markups, aren't doing morning forecasts, aren't doing, you know, afternoon forecasts and then markups, and you're not actually logging any of this data, you know, remember that the 1 minute only goes back 6 weeks, right? So let's say you wanted some data to build a plan and you wanted to start the data gathering from June. If you wasn't doing markups, you're not going to gather that data because it's gone. Obviously, you can go on software effects and things, but it's not the same as TradingView. In my opinion, I don't like software effects. So one of the biggest reasons we say do a daily markup, even if you can't be asked, even if there's nothing that maybe you saw, just go over the day still and just see if any of the opportunities that presented, if they fit your plan. Now, obviously, if you don't have a plan, then you need to just mark them all up with the entry model we talk about, you know, the V-shape, the chalk, the flip, the higher time frame mitigation, supply chains, demand chains. And then from that, you can go, right, I'm going to mark up all these for the next 3 or 4 months, and then I'm going to look to construct a plan from it. You know, it's so important. And I know it probably doesn't seem like it, but being able to go over data and just look back and go, oh, look, this happened, that happened. You know, it reaffirms to you, if you have a bad week or you have a bad day or even a bad month, if you can go back over 6 months, 8 months of data and see that your edge basically plays out every month, you'll finish in profit, then you can kind of go, okay, you know, I don't need to change anything. I know this works. I just need to, you know, reset, reflect, look at the trades I've taken in my journal and say to myself, okay, did they fit the plan or was I just being an idiot? You know, I'll be honest, cutting any of the shit, most of the stuff you do in trading, or should I say that we do, because I still do it too, is usually just down to being an absolute knobhead. Sometimes you need to hear it. You know, without sugarcoating things, stop being a prick. Just focus, stop worrying about other people. It all goes back to why do you trade? What do you want from it? You know, something that I've started to notice more and more lately is, you know, everyone would normally flex on people with a Lambo or Rolex or a stack of cash. The ultimate flex now, especially for me, is time and freedom. You know, to be able to do what I want when I want without someone telling me no or yes, or, you know, just doing what I want, being able to make money anywhere in the world and kind of do it on my terms. That's a flex. So, you know, start realizing that this is a professional business. If you started a clothing business, if you started a window cleaning business, if you started a building business, if you started anything, you wouldn't put 50 quid in and say you're going to be a millionaire. You wouldn't try and flip that 50 quid you got for Christmas off your nan, right? So it's the same in trading. Just because you see big numbers flying about doesn't mean that that's the ultimate way of doing things. It's the same with funding. Everyone puts it on a pedestal and thinks funding will change my life. Please remember, right, with funding, you have to pass a challenge, a verification, and finish a month in profit just to get your money back. That's 3 attempts where it's going to test you. If you fluke the first one because you've just dived into it because you think FTMO is just like, yeah, society says I've got to have one, then the chances are you're going to fail the verification. If you get past that, you might not make profit on the live account. Then you don't get your money back. Then you feel like an absolute knob. Be patient. Wait for the good stuff. Like, we say it every single day because it's true. There is no secret sauce apart from hard work, dedication, consistency, and focus. Like, you have to be consistent. It goes back to that coin video. If you start trading on an FTMO and you start trading on 15-minute only entries, right? And then halfway through it, you go to the 1 minute, you've just messed with probabilities. You might get 4 losses in a row on the 1 minute before the winner comes, and the next 15-minute trade would have won. So you need to stick to a plan, stick to an edge. Don't force it because you'll probably shit your pants, right? Just like a fart. If you force it, usually it ends in, oh, I've shit myself, right? Just relax. I miss trades. There was, on my markups last week, there was 155% on EU that fit my plan. Now, obviously, this is holding trades, you know, full volume, long term. I took 18% last week. I had 5 trades, 2 losses, 3 wins. That's my month done. I'm chilling. I don't have to now come into it and do anything. I don't have to have that worry of, right, got to trade, got to make more R. Why do you need more R? What do you actually need, right? And there's a big quote I read the other day. Tyson Fury says it a lot. It's about, being in the moment. Like the biggest thing for him, and it's kind of something that I'm working on, like actually being in the moment, like today, not worrying about tomorrow, not worrying about next week, not worrying about next month, not worrying about the next outgoing or the next debt or the next bill or the next thing you've got to buy or when your FTMO runs out. Just be present in today. Like if you can be present on today and today only, don't worry about tomorrow, right? Don't worry about the next day. Just focus on now. And it's something that you need to get used to, especially when you start ticking off goals. Because again, something that I've spoken about a lot. I've ticked off, honestly, I'm buzzing. Like I've ticked off some huge goals this year. Like things that I never thought I would do in such a short space of time. And I've done it, right? And I automatically, these are goals I've had written down for years. And all I've done is when I did it, I was like, right, what's the next goal? And I was like, hang on a minute. That's stupid because you'll never actually enjoy what you've done. You're just stuck on chasing that materialistic or that next big thing without actually understanding what you've achieved and what you've done. And it's so important because if you don't reflect and you don't actually go, hang on a minute, I'm fucking smashing it. Like I'm doing well and I deserve it. I'm putting the work in. Then you'll never be happy, like ever, because you'll just chase everything. If you look at all the big entrepreneurs, they all talk about it. You know, they got everything they've ever wanted. They can do anything they ever want. But a lot of them weren't happy. They had to go on a mission and a journey to figure out and find that happiness. The truth is, we're all happy. It's within all of us, right? And another quote that I've read is that, you know, people say when you're a child, and I use my daughter a lot for this in kind of context because the other week she wasn't very well. She had a cold. Now, when we get a cold or we get flu, you know, a lot of the time it will ruin our day. We'll have the we'll moan, we'll whinge, right? She had a cold. She was still spinning around, dancing around the front room, singing. Nothing could bother her, right? You mentioned the silliest thing, like we're going to get some ice cream, we're going to do this, buzzing, absolutely ecstatic, right? And that's because she doesn't have any ego. She doesn't have any kind of like personas or perceptions on other things in life. She doesn't have any negative energy or thoughts yet because her brain's still developing and she's still developing, and to her happiness is just generally waking up and, you know, having a bit of breakfast and watching the telly. Like she's chilled, right? My older daughter, who's approaching 11 now, she is starting to get to the point where you get outside values, you get more thoughts and whatnot, right? And I can see the difference. If she's ill, she'll moan about it, she'll mope about it, she'll let outside things bother her. And obviously I'm trying to, you know, of course, educate them in ways that of things that I've learned to be like, you know, this is how you can approach things, this is how you should look at things. But when you take the two and you kind of compare them, it's because my youngest, who's 4, she's not kind of been in the world essentially where you have potentially egos, materialistic things. Example, someone in my eldest daughter's class goes to school with a Louis Vuitton bag, right? And now my daughter comes home and says, oh, I need to have a Louis Vuitton bag because people think she's so cool. And it was a great lesson for me because I sat her down and I explained to her how these things don't mean you're better than anybody else. They're simply a materialistic item. If you like that thing, then brilliant. But I explained to her, you know, the cost of that and how much it would be and what you'd have to do to achieve that. You know, and these are great lessons for me to sit down with her and talk about. I was the same 3 or 4 years ago. All I bought was designer stuff. And to be honest, it was because I wanted someone to say to me, oh, sick bag, man, or sick shoes, bro, or you're killing it. But in actual fact, back then I was in tons of debt, mate, struggling like mad. But the perception of social media and whatnot makes people think you're smashing it. And unfortunately, most people that show stuff on Instagram and whatnot are chatting shit, mate. They probably hate their lives and they're not happy. And I'm not saying this to be a knobhead or go off on a tangent, but what I'm saying is like, there's so much more to trading than just a technical approach. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you haven't got your mindset in check and you haven't got your values in check, you're really going to struggle to get to that next level because there's always going to be something holding you back. So yeah, there was just a little Albie madness of mindset. A lot of you have been asking for these things back, so I'm going to put them back, and I'm going to stop saying I'm sorry for waffling, because some of you have shouted at me for that. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to try and do a lot more of this on like the YouTube stuff and on the podcast stuff, and just really deep dive into things that impacted me, and that the way we should be thinking. Because if you can get your mindset on board, I truly believe that everything else will just fall into place. But it all starts with your mindset and all these perceptions and values that you have. So I'm going to recap New York shorts from the 4th of November last week. Had a lot of questions on these, especially the first entry. So I thought it'd be good to just go over it, show the thought process behind it, and then from that, hopefully give you guys a little bit of value and whatnot. So yeah, let's get into it. So if you remember, if you go back to that day, what's good with these recaps, if you go back to the forecasted morning, you'll see the thought process of the morning, and then you can kind of go, oh, this is how we marked this up, and then this is what we saw, and then obviously you can go from that. So I marked this up. I had this as a inside bar on the 15. I went on the 10 minute, and I saw we had this like pullback, and then obviously looked to the left, and if we go back on the 15, sorry, you can see here that we had this whole demand here. So we had this whole demand. I know my colours of demand and supply are the same. I'm just trying to keep things real neutral and simple. So we had this flip. This was our last kind of reaction, right? And then obviously at the same time, right, this also came and we took out this low. Okay, so this was our last kind of pullback. If we go back on the 4 hour quickly, just to have a look, at this point in time, this is not what I want. We were obviously, we kind of, pushed up here. We hadn't quite reached this, which I know a lot of us were waiting for. But again, we were at the premium of this whole leg. We come to the EQ. And then we started to see these reactions here. We reacted off of this sell to buy. Price had come in here, pushed up, failed to close above. And then from here, we saw some real bearish intentions. And then again, it comes into the bottom of this range here. So if I just mark that. Comes into the bottom of that range. And then if you go on the 15 minute here, right, we know that that's the bottom of the 4 hour range. And then it's a case of just saying, right, a lot of the time when we break structure, we'll get a pullback beyond the break of structure. So can we find a POI that makes sense within this leg that we can look to short from? Obviously, we're aware that we're pretty damn bearish. Price has just been kind of absolutely hammering down from up here. I mean, these were quite flat highs. I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to do what they did. But it's all about adapting. Once it does this, you go, right, well, this flipped this demand. This demand was a sweep. This demand did try and put in these highs up here. Obviously, bearing in mind that the overall leg, we were still bearish, right? Because we were coming off of this leg. So this was all internal structure. But, we were bearish anyway. And then this just confirmed it when we had our change of character and whatnot. We took out, that high never got taken. So that was the last high that went. So that was the last low that went. So as you can see here, this kind of also, not only was it a flip, and it broke this point of structure, but it also caused this chop to complete. Obviously, as we were coming down, we were pretty much just mitigating everything, and then we had these buy to sell wicks that had a mitigation from this candle. So we'd kind of mitigated everything, and it was like, you know what? I've seen this price action so often, and this is another thing with trading. Like sometimes you'll just see price action that you've seen over and over again, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm taking this because it makes sense, right? And then obviously, you can refine it if you want to the 5 minute. You can see now how you've had that pullback. That also sweeps that high, that liquidity there, and then drops. So what we've had here is we're also playing out of a POI that, is refined on the 5. It's a sweep. So it's, you could just refine it a little bit to the 5 minute. And then at that point, if you're only trading from a higher time frame or you're at work, you could literally go, right, well, I'm going to put that there. How big's the stop? All right, let's give it 5 pips just to cover this wick. And then you would just target this low. And there's 1 to 5, 5.74, which again, remember in a morning or an afternoon, if you're at work and you're busy, that's an incredible trade. One of those a week, you're laughing, especially if you're risking 1%. Even if you're risking 0.5%, one of those a week is still incredible. So, don't overlook that. Sometimes it's the easier way to trade. To be honest, it can save a lot. And obviously you can do your refinements and say, oh, well, I only play the EQ, for instance. And now you've got like a 3 pip stop. Now it's a 1 to 10. These are all things that you need to, this is what we say, test and gather data. Because if you don't log this, right, and say, oh, look, this one came to the EQ. If you don't log that, then when you're going to build your trade plan, you'll probably base it off of the most recent PA. But if you can go back over 2, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months and go, right, on average, let's say the EQ of a POI gets hit 10 times, the open obviously will get hit, you know, let's say 20 times. Am I happy with the difference in hits where I won't get tagged maybe 10 times if I play the EQ, but I'll get a better risk reward? Or am I happy just to sort of get involved? Then you could also go, right, well, the quarter, the 0.25%, that gets hit 15 times. So maybe I could find my happy medium at 15. You know, these are all things that you do when you're building a trade plan. So yeah, if we go back to that, so obviously, you know, it's standard thing, waiting for the entry model to present. Once it presents, we're smashing it. If it doesn't present, we are not smashing it. Not trying to catch longs into this or just any madness, just waiting for what we deem to be the setup we want. And then we go on the 1 minute. So, you know, price is tapped in and we just sort of wait and play that entry model. I'll just play this on. So here we can see that, you know, at this point, you know, we've had a real nice V-shaped recovery. If you haven't seen what that is, I dropped a resource for that in, we've been talking about it for months, but I dropped a resource in Phantom Resources. So check it out. You know, aggressive mitigation, in and out, looks like a V. So that's like, right, okay, we've had one confluence, you know, we've started to sweep a lot of liquidity. We've got a lot of liquidity to the downside to target. Now we're waiting to see if we get the change of character, if we get the flip. Obviously here, you know, this trades at 5667 and that trades at 5667. So you could say that that was your high for change of character here, and then you could say that that now became your low for change of character if you wanted to, like this, or you could of course use this guy here. It's completely down to you. Then you could also go, right, well, these demands didn't really do anything. So we've witnessed demand fail, right? But they didn't get a reaction. So at the moment, we don't want to really play it. Obviously, something happened here and pushed price up a little bit. But we want to see what happens with this guy. So when it's like that, again, like I say, you can just pull the whole sell to buy range, or you can, of course, just refine it to this little dude here. So you can play that one on. And you can see that, again, you know, we've had a pullback. This takes out that high just. And then, obviously, you know, we drop. Okay, so it's like, all right, it's not... Personally, I'm not going to just trade off of this. So what we say a lot of the time as well is if the decisional, you know, if it's not taking liquidity, then obviously extreme is in play. We want to wait to see some kind of liquidity taken. We want to wait to see if demand starts to truly fail. So then your next sort of demand is kind of this big guy here, right? So we can get rid of that. Like I say, we're witnessing demand failing, and we're witnessing, you know, if let's say you had your change of character down here, then you've witnessed that change of character as well, completion, you've had your V-shape, your liquidation, you know, your higher time frame mitigation, your overall narrative's built. So there's a lot of confluences for this. It's just like, can we get in? Now, I know a lot of people were a bit unsure on the way I entered this, and it was simply, again, just something I've seen over and over again, and the main thing with all these trades is the higher time frame narrative, because it gives us that confidence that, right, the narrative for us makes so much sense that it's just a case of getting in the trade. Remember, if you just played the 5 minute and the 15, you'd be in this already. You don't have to faff about with all this. But I always say I like smaller stops, so I put myself through hell. So we've had our first reaction, and with that reaction, you can see that we've taken out this high, okay, here. So we've had a pullback, you know, and then this high got swept. So now it's a case of like, okay, so we've had that sweep. So this buy candle here, put it to the back. This buy candle, you know, if it takes that out, then this is essentially that sweep that's caused a reaction fail, right? So you've had your reaction, it's tried to put in new highs. In the process, we've had a sweep, and then this is doing that. So if that takes that out, then this could be your first entry, right? Like that. That's literally how I'd see it. Of course, be cautious, because yes, price could come in here and do this, because this is still that overall demand level, and this is the first mitigation. And as we know, the first mitigation sometimes can fail for a deeper mitigation. So you don't have to play this one if you don't want to. Of course, you can wait for more development. So as you can see here, more development, you know, it just wicked that low, okay? So, I mean, if you had your trade on that and you went 2 pips, maybe you'd have stayed in. Obviously, it's quite an aggressive sweep. And this is why, you know, again, just cautious. Let's see if we can get a close below, or let's see if we start to see some order flow. So what we've had happen here now is we've had another sweep, right? Now prices truly taken out this high. So remember, with a sweep, you want to trade away from it, not into it. So what we're seeing essentially now is, right, if this now takes out these lows, then this should be game on to start playing the shorts. Okay, again, so we sweep higher. So at the moment, we're not looking to trade. And then there you can see that we take this low out. So now you can say, right, we've had a decent sweep, okay? It's left us this candle that we can be happy to look to take shorts from, depending on how our stop looks. So if we put that on there, where's 2 pips? Remember, if you can't get 2 pips, I will just pull it back until I can get 2 pips. So you can enter it like that. Of course, that's one way you can enter it. So if we just play this on, you'd be tagged now. Oh. And then obviously you get that nice reaction. Right, now you're starting to see potentially order flow kicking in. Again, it's still quite close to our entry, so I wouldn't be looking to scale in or whatever. And then this candle here again, notice now, and it's the same stuff every week. We go over it all the time. We now take out these highs. So let's see if this drops the low. Right, that drops the low. So you could look for a re-entry off of this wick, which, funny enough, comes straight back to, right? So let me just move this over. So, basically what we're seeing here is we're witnessing multiple mitigations of this demand, this kind of demand range. But what we're doing is we're failing to put in new highs. All we're doing is taking out liquidity, dropping a low, taking out liquidity, dropping a low, right? So at some point, this is going to let go and it's going to go. So it's a case of saying, right, well, I'm in my position. I'm not break even or anything yet. Obviously, when it's this close to my stop, when we say about break even, yes, you could do this, close below this, you could go break even. But you could say to yourself, you want to see it push away a little bit more, maybe break this whole range before you look at going BE, because it can sometimes be a little bit compact in your level. Obviously, from there now, you could say, right, I'm happy to go to break even. You've got quite a nice fill. Mindful, of course, that it could come up for this guy up here, there. But it also could just come and tap the bottom of this break even line, which is the range. And then we could see another continued push away. So now at this position, right, we're running, we're at break even, we're risk free. And then here you've got this current demand that is giving us a reaction. So here, and then what we do is if we move this over, we can see that we've had a reaction here, it's failed. And then now let's see if we can drop that low. So we've swept, which is great. Does it take out the low? Yeah, so now we take out this low. So again, if you wanted to scale in off this, you could look to play that because that is the last sweep before the reaction failed there. So you could do something like this. Again, where's 2 pips? 2 pips is on the high, so I'd put it back a little bit. So like I say, you could have a limit on that. You'd be tagged into that now. Obviously, lovely little reaction here. Let me just auto this. Cool. So, at this point, you could essentially say this is probably left for a later mitigation. Price has then had another interaction with demand, supply's taken control, and obviously we've had that sweep. And again, we're just trading away from the sweep, not into it, following higher time frame intentions off of a higher time frame mitigation. So let me pull that in. And then what this does is obviously it leaves us, potential buy to sell candle here that we may mitigate. And also, you just need to be looking left and saying, right, what are we hitting? What's going on? Obviously, both of these trades, we should be targeting the lows. So that's a 1 to 11, and that is a 1 to 6. So yeah, if we play this on, you can see here that now, obviously, one thing I would say is be cautious if you're getting in quite low, just because, of course, this is above you that hasn't had a mitigation, and we do have the extreme. Would I be break even on this yet? Probably. The one thing with when you're lower in the leg is, if you just went, I don't know, let's say you went here and you went, right, I'm going BE. Personally, I'd want to see a close below. You could have done this, but you just have to factor in that if you're using BE, because you want to, I want to start leaving more full volume. Partials started to kill my trades a little bit. And you get in the habit of just taking partial, and before you know it, you're actually just wasting your time. So this could still get hit. So being break even up here, I'm cautious. So I wouldn't be BE just yet. I'd want to see these lows drop. If the lows drop, I'd be quite interested in potentially going. Right, okay, so now we're pulling back. Right, cool. So we've basically come into this. What you could do on this point is, if you don't want to play a limit off of this, because let's say your stop loss to cover the high is like 4 pips. Now, for me personally, it's just too big. So what I would do is go, right, well, where's 2 pips? 2 pips is there. Pulling it back, you still couldn't cover the highs, right? So this is where I potentially would drop to the seconds. It's the only time I'd probably use the seconds, is if I want to confirm an M1 level. So in this point, we can see that we basically build in liquidity, right? Demand's holding to build liquidity, likely for supply to run through it. We know we have these lows, which again are very weak, very flat. They've failed to break swing structure. So overall, shorts are on the cards. So I'd be on the 5 seconds here. And I'd say to myself, right, can I play this? Is this a possibility? We've taken out that high. We see if we take out this low. So we wick the low. And then we have that reaction there. I'd look at, could I play 2 pips above that high? Probably play something like this. See if this comes back for us or just disappears. Right, okay, so, I'd probably play this. I'd just play this whole range. And draw it from like here. So that our higher time frame is probably like a 15-second doji. If we go to the 5 seconds, just so you can see. So all I've done is, we took out this high, we took out this low. So there's change of character. We have a V shape, right? We've reacted to this demand here. We failed to put in a high. It broke. It's literally the same entry model that we just spoke about on the 1 minute that we talk about every single day in Phantom. But what it is it's just confirming a 1 minute level because my stop, I can't get higher. Now I'm fully aware this could take me out. My stop's only here and it's quite a big level. It could come for the EQ, but I'm already in the trade. I'm quite well positioned. I'm happy to take that risk. So it's like, whatever, take the risk or lose the chance. I took this trade. So, I took the top one and I took this one. I didn't get in this one to the left. I was making a drink or something. I think I missed it. I waited to confirm the level. And yeah, again, this one, we just hold it to the low. So if we come out, go on the 1 minute, this one here, you'd be just targeting those lows. So you got roughly a 1 to 5. I think I took 1 to 5 off it. I won't get in a trade unless I can get 1 to 5 out of it. This one's 1 to 11. This one's 1 to 6. This one's 1 to 5. This is one New York session. You can't tell me there's no opportunity because there's bundles. It's just about waiting and not getting caught out in all this rubbish, not forcing anything and just taking your time because then you get in this trade, you get your risk off. I think I took my risk off after these lows went on both of these. And then it's just a case of, right, cool, we hit TP. TP done. I think that day I took 14% in the end. Obviously, I didn't get in this one and I absolutely messed up the management on that. I went to close that in partial just to secure some profits because I was scaling in and I actually closed all. So then I got in this one and I guess it kind of made up for it. I think I took about 8. I think I took like 8% or something like that. I think I might have closed it down here somewhere off this demand. I can't remember. I'll have to check the journal. But I closed it somewhere here and then obviously because I was looking to scale into this and then when it come back, I just made sure I got in it. But again, I didn't force it. It fit the plan. And then, yeah, bosh. That and to be honest, that's then your week done, your fortnight done, even your month done. You don't need to then sit there going, right, I'm the market, I'm going to smash the granny every day and I'm going to take all the profits because it will humble the shit out of you, man. The market, you're not the market, you're not going to be the market, you don't move the market, you don't know what the market's going to do. Stop being a wombat, stop living in dreamland. Just play your edge over and over again that you've tried, tested, built data on, used in a live market, not just being a professional back tester on bar replay, actually gone into a live market and executed it with a small account, small lot, small risk. Do that over a period of time and you'll be consistent. The problem is the shiny object syndrome, the greed, outside influences, seeing other people, following other people. If you follow a bunch of people on Instagram that have no benefit in your life, get rid of them. If you follow people on Instagram that trade, that make you do dumb things, get rid of them. Because I tell you what, no one actually gives a shit about you. And it sounds horrible, but no one does. All it is, unfortunately, this industry's become like a dick swinging contest on who can do the most, who's the best. I don't give a fuck. Sorry, I don't. All I care about is, can I put food on the table for my family? Do I have freedom? Am I my own boss? And am I kind of essentially recession proof and whatever else you want to call it, pandemic proof? And can I use this money generated to diversify into other business ventures? Yes, I can. Am I enjoying myself? Yes. Am I happy? Yes. Did I think I'd be here a year ago? Probably not. Do I look like I've become an overnight success? Probably. But no one's seen the consistent battles, failures, thoughts of giving up. But one thing I never did was actually give up. So I hope this was really insightful. I hope it kind of gave you a little bit of a flavour of a bit of mindset and some technicals, obviously. I hope some of it hits home. And yeah, I'll catch you all on the next one. Have an incredible week. Trade safe. Be professional. Be disciplined. And above all else, enjoy yourself. Big loves. Peace and love, hammies.